we've got multiple studies on this. There's been multiple reports on this. To deny the idea that the funding formula isn't inequitable seems to me pretty hard to back up. When we look at something like racial disparity, what we're looking at is a historical artifact. This is the result of a very racialized history in the city of Baltimore. The question is going to be implementation. That's one of the critiques that you typically see around urban education, is that it's mismanagement. Hogan's even said this in some early comments around the Kerwin Commission, right? Concerned about the budget is being mismanaged, the money's being wasted, or spent on the wrong things. That's a pretty easy critique to levy, but not always so easy to prove. And I certainly think there's been steps. I know that the current CEO of Baltimore City Public Schools, San Elises, has done some pretty intensive review of the budget, right, and have made some decisions around those budget concerns. But it's a big district, right, and it costs a lot of money to run it. The report is one step, right? And then it has to go through the other things to actually get legislated. One of the concerns is that the Kerwin Commission will get carved up, right? And it seems rather likely that the Kerwin Commission won't go through legislature as one big package. It'll be done as separate bills. Each one getting tweaked, getting compromises being made, deals perhaps being made along the way, and the concern is that what actually reaches the governor's desk, right, as legislation, is going to look quite a bit different from what was actually in the report by the time it goes through all of that. There is a concern that it's spread beyond just the school funding issue, and that might dilute some of that attention. And certainly I would be, I share that concern, right? That we don't get lost in all of these other issues. We don't get that fundamental question of equitable funding, that might get diluted. Yeah, I mean, I think there's some good folks doing good work there. I know the ACLU has an education working group, and they've been doing some work. There's some community-based organizations that have taken this up. We've tried to do some things in the School of Education. We've had some students that have gotten real interested and kind of mobilized. I think it's back to the basics, right? I think we have to organize and we have to educate, and we have to keep the pressure on, right? So that's the third concern, right? Is that as the commission extends its tenure, right? We were supposed to have a report by now, but it's been kicked down the road, so it'll be sometime, we think, in this year, is that we lose momentum, right? You lose the kind of the impassioned connection to these issues. That's another concern, right? That the public will kind of step back. So that's something we have to, I think, keep the intensity up, right? And making sure that our elected officials understand how seriously we take these issues, and how seriously we feel about the importance of our public schools. Right? It kind of depends on leadership within the communities. I think there are some that see this very clearly as an issue that they want to take up and organize and mobilize around, and others perhaps not so much. I do a lot of work in West Baltimore, and I wish there was more energy behind this issue in those neighborhoods. It's kind of slow going. keeping an eye out for those public events, and there have been several over the past year that are happening in communities, attending to those things. And I also think mobilizing neighborhoods and community associations could be another piece, right? So as folks are involved, whether it be a neighborhood association, maybe a broader, kind of regional thing, it's faith communities, et cetera, reaching out and bringing folks in to kind of really educate the citizens of Baltimore on the Kerwin Commission, on the realities of school funding, on the impact of some of these decisions that have been made historically. So I think that's the main thing. And then, of course, communicating to our elected officials that we do not want to lose momentum on this. We want to keep that pressure up. And those two things are often connected, right? So in my neighborhood association, our city council folks, they come, right? Representatives from the mayor's office comes to the neighborhood association. So by putting Kerwin Commission on the agenda, we're signaling to our elected officials we care about them.